Oversoul 7's Little Book, an Appendix, by Jane Roberts, read by Martin John. The Introduction. And Oversoul 7 sat by Tweety's bedside each night, reading from the special book he'd written just for her. But he also knew that it was written for all children, those young in years and those hidden within adults. He also knew that the book would automatically re-arouse the children within the adults so that they could be comforted in the present for the misunderstandings of the past. He said to Cypress, "And my little book is magical. That's the beauty of it. Whoever really understands what I'm saying will have a charmed life. In fact, I have a whole chapter on that one." So 7 read to Tweety, a bit at a time. The Charmed Life. Each life is charmed, yours and everyone else's, and you must never forget it. The instant you're born, you're charmed, because life itself is a charm. Each being is charmed into existence in whatever reality it finds itself, and given everything it needs to operate in the environment. Your body is charmed, too. It's a magical part of everything else, springing up from all the things you see about you. Atoms and molecules go singing through the miraculous air, forming themselves into rocks and trees and dogs and cats and people too. You are magic. You charm the air so that it thickens into your body wherever you are. When you want to move, you think the air ahead of you into becoming your body, and the air behind you then stops being your body. All very magical indeed. You move your arm just 1 inch to the right, and the air to the left 1 inch stops being a part of your arm. But it all happens so quickly. Your snatching of the air and making it turn into your body that you never notice at all, and take it quite for granted. Which is why it works so well, you see. But your life is charmed, and there is a secret, a very simple one. Really, it's not a secret. But you have to remember that your life is charmed. People who forget can't use their magic nearly as well as they did before, and they have a tendency to get angry at those who can. So, often, they pretend that no magic exists at all. Then they evolve great philosophies to prove it, which is itself magical, of course. But they can't see that, because they're so convinced that magic doesn't exist. And many people forget how simple and natural magic is. So they evolve long theories and methods that are supposed to make it work, when you and I know, and everyone else really knows, that magic happens by itself, because that's what magic is. But people are also very creative, magic again. So they make up gods of this and that, and realms and spheres, and maps to chart out in advance where magic might be taking them so that they don't get surprised, which is silly because magic goes where it wants to, which is everywhere. And when you try to map it out in advance, you really cut yourself short. Because a characteristic of magic is that it automatically turns into whatever you want it to be. You create your own reality with it. So whatever maps you make are real. And if you forget that magic is, then you're liable to think that your map is really the only real one, and all the others are false. You get in a terrible bind, fighting over which way is right, which road or map, while all the time magic is what makes the maps. And a great variety of maps can appear in the twinkling of an eye. Particularly when you grow up, many people will tell you that there is no magic. If you believe them, then you'll forget too, and you'll act as if you aren't charmed and bring unmagic into your life, which is magic too, you see, but magic that doesn't know itself. Then you'll create things that go with unmagic, like sorrow or sickness, and you'll have to deal with them at that level until you remember that your life is charmed again. So in the meantime, you'll feel nasty and unloved and angry, way beyond what is natural, and have to worry about sad or fearful emotions and what to do with them, when magically you'd know. They'd just come and go exuberantly like summer storms. But anger and hate and sorrow are all magic too, and left alone, they'd lead you back to the knowledge that your life is charmed. Because hate is love looking for itself every place but where love is. And love is what you feel for yourself when you know that you are where you're supposed to be in the universe, and that you're lovely just because you are, and, of course, charmed. Not only that, but you're also the magic maker, the inner living part of you that forms your life. But consciously, you have to know this. Accept and acknowledge it, and let the magic of yourself happen. That way, you're directing the magic of yourself. But it's even more fun just to let the magic happen as it wants to, because it's your magic. And that way, it keeps telling you more and more about your magical self. Then the magic flows through you with unimpeded delight. If you keep saying, I want it this way and no other, then you may be limiting your physical experience. Because there's no doubt that your inner magical self knows more about your potentials than you do. And it will tell you quite clearly if you listen. To many adults, all of this sounds too simple and unintellectual, because unfortunately many of them think that the mind is just something to say no with and to keep magic out. Nothing could be further from the truth, because if you use your mind to say no to magic, then it's like closing doors to your own charmed existence and refusing to use the full power of your life. Everyone works with magic, whether they realize it or not. Beliefs are magic too, you see. Many people think that one particular belief makes everything right, or makes magic happen. And as long as they believe that, they're all right for a while. But if they start doubting that belief and don't find another one to replace it, then they'll think that they've lost their magic, or that life has. Instead, of course, the magic is there all along. But people love systems, so they use all kinds of beliefs, some of them quite handy, as aids. And they travel through belief systems, sometimes going to considerable trouble to do so, when all they really have to remember is that they are magical themselves, and their lives are charmed without their having to do anything about it at all. And your conscious mind is magic too. Its workings are mysterious and complicated, and simple and clear at once, like air is. Your conscious mind looks out through your eyes, and knows parcels of air as its body, and smiles through cheeks and skin the same way that the moon shines through the wide skin of the heavens. See how clear and mysterious it all is? So, in a way, it's silly for the conscious mind to question magic because, well, it's so magical itself. But systems of magic are silly, too, and all of them are really based upon doubt. Magic is considered so tenuous that someone has to be at it all the time, making spells or paying someone else to do it. And the spells all have to be done just right. So people concentrate on how to do this spell or another. This gets very complicated, and many adult books deal with the subject. But everything is a spell. Your words and thoughts are spells. Science is just another system that tries to discover what certain spells cause certain effects. Usually, of course, scientists don't understand magic any more than priests do, and they all get caught up in their own complicated methods. There isn't much basic difference between muttering a lot of different phrases or drawing magic circles to protect yourself against illness, and taking handfuls of pills given to you by doctors. Both methods work if you believe in them, though the practitioners of one method will never agree that the other way works at all, of course. And unfortunately, neither side really understands magic, which is behind all of the spells and methods and formulas. Spells work if you believe in them. Only you don't need spells at all. Everything happens by itself. You happened by yourself. So does the world. And the principle behind it all is magic. And magic is the beginness within and behind all things. The body and creaturehood. Within your creaturehood, you have all kinds of freedom, and all of the freedom you can ever enjoy in your lifetime must come through your creaturehood. Some people spend a good deal of time trying to ignore their own bodies, or trying to pretend that they have minds, or that minds alone are important. Some people even try to ignore their bodies almost entirely in an effort to be more spiritual, or to be better people, which is like a bird trying to fly better than any other bird alive, all the time refusing to use its wings, or pretending that they weren't there. He'd never get off the ground. A bird would never think of such foolishness, of course, and often other creatures are smarter than people. In fact, whenever you are in trouble, it's a good idea to watch the animals, for they bask in their freedom and don't worry about their limitations. A cat or dog can teach you a lot. A cat really enjoys its catness, just as you should enjoy your creaturehood. Even a fly buzzing around the ceiling loves its own reality and is free in it. If it stopped to wonder whether or not it could really fly well, it would fall down in a minute and never go fast enough to outwit your mother's fly swatter. So, trying to be religious or good or better and by ignoring your body doesn't make much sense either. Actually, each person has a private kingdom for his or her very own, because your body is the one part of earth that is really yours, that no one can take away during your lifetime. It's part of earth, moving and alive, that belongs to you and nobody else. In a way, it's your portion of the planet, sprung up in a living, moving statue of earth stuff, for you and no one else. So how you treat your body is important. You just don't live in it either. You live through it. There's a difference. You flow through it, moving in all of its parts. The body is your own magic country. Your conscious mind is like a monarch. Now, a good king or queen is loving and gives the people freedom to move about the country. In this case, your own feelings and thoughts and desires are like the people in your kingdom. So you should treat your own feelings graciously, and you and your kingdom will flourish. Some monarchs are dictators, setting up all kinds of impossible laws and taboos, because they're really afraid of the people who make up their own kingdom. If you're a good king or queen, you'll realize that your kingdom is a good one, and you won't be afraid of your own people, your thoughts and feelings and desires, but will encourage them. And you and your body will have all the freedom necessary to flourish and grow. The Power and a Special Sumari Song. Now, here's a Sumari song to help you remember that your existence is a charmed one. A Sumari song is one that speaks to your ordinary self and to your magical self at once. It's a charmed song, of course. But it isn't a spell or a sign or even a symbol, because all those things can be very tricky indeed. For example, if you believe that your magic comes from a medal or a cross or a necklace, and you lose your luck piece, then you're in trouble, and you think that your magic is gone. Then you can spend a lifetime trying to find it. And if you think that spells make magic, then you aren't secure either, because you might forget the words to the spell, since no one is infallible. Besides, people who believe in spells guard them very jealously and often think that they alone have the power, and if you want to learn their methods, then you must endure trials and prove your courage. And, of course, you must promise to follow the rules and prove that you are worthy of the power. Again, all this is very silly because flowers and birds and frogs have the power too, and without having to prove themselves to anyone or pass any tests. So, the Sumari song is just a reminder. It's been translated from an inner language into one that you can understand, but the magic is still in it. It will jog your memory when you're in danger of forgetting that your life is charmed. Of course, you might forget the song, but even then, you'd only lose a valuable reminder, which would be a pity, but you wouldn't believe that your magic had gone with your memory. Still, I hope that you'll always remember that your life is charmed, and that your magic is you, and you don't have to prove anything to yourself or anyone else to get it. Here is the Sumari song. My mind is like a frog on a lily pad, knowing, alone, but never lonely. My mind is green and glowing, leaping without slipping from lily pad thought to thought. My mind sits smiling on the pond of my being, in morning and evening, always knowing the time, yet not needing a clock. My mind is like a frog. My mind is like a frog on a lily pad, knowing alone but never lonely. My mind is green and growing, leaping without slipping from lily pad thought to thought. My mind sits smiling, yeah, on the pond of my being, in the morning and evening, yeah, always knowing the time but never needing a clock. Sumari time. There are special moments that are open channels in which a different kind of time emerges, an inside Sumari kind of non-time. And in that time, everything is miraculous. 1 hour of it is worth, well, days of ordinary minutes. In Sumari time, you can learn something in a twinkling that might otherwise take years, and insights spring up, brilliant as fresh fruit for the picking. This Sumari time is the special heart of time, and contains its real meaning. Again, it's really a non-time, always new and shiny, and it contains secrets that are secrets only because so few people realize that this glittering time exists, and right in the middle of the regular time that they know. Now, in Earth time, so many minutes add up to so many hours, and when you're living in that framework alone, then so much time is needed to get things done. But inspiration is quite different. It seeks out those special moments when magic leaps from one world to the other with such ease. And each person has his or her own key to Sumari time. All you have to do is use it. You can write or paint or learn things or solve problems or just be supremely happy 10 times as well in 1 hour of Sumari time as you can in 10 regular hours. Of course, Sumari and Earth time coincide, which is tricky, I admit. And Earth time springs out of Sumari time. But people divide up usual time so much that they never realize that time is really whole. So, Samari time is whole time, since we're using the term time at all. Later, we'll dispense with it entirely. But right now the trick is to recognize Samari time and use it. If time were a fruit, then Samari time would be its nectar and essence. And if time were a holiday, then Samari time would be Christmas. When most people bump into a corner of Samari time, they are delighted, but they don't know how to find it again, when it's there all the while. Stacks and stacks of the wrong kind of hours won't give you even 1 minute of good Samari time, though. Because, in a strange way, a Samari hour is the other side of an earth hour. I mean, all of a sudden, for example, 11 o'clock becomes transparent. It is what it is, on top, but it's something else, too, underneath. And you can peer through, well, time itself. The beginning. It's deceptive to say that thus and so happened in the beginning, or that in the beginning was the Word, or whatever, because there was no official beginning when God suddenly came parading out of nothingness, bearing the ingredients of mountains, oceans, and land, and trailing sky banners proclaiming the opening of the universe or the creation of life from a sea of gases. There are multitudinous beginnings. The beginning is only the one you came in on, so to speak, which is rather like coming into a dream in the middle and wondering what happened earlier. In dreams, everything really happens at once, even though there seems to be a beginning and ending. The past and present and future merge, and the universe is like that in a way. You're bound to wonder what went on or how long it's been going on, not realizing that in a matter of speaking, it just started when you got there. And in another way, it really isn't there at all. If you dream that you're in a jungle, for instance, no vines or tangled undergrowth climb up the bedposts, and no exotic animals prowl between the window and the door. Yet the jungle seems certainly real. Where did it come from? Or where did it begin? The universe is like the dream jungle. It exists quite properly, yet in the most profound way it makes no sense to ask when it began. It begins each day, each moment, at each point of our contact with it. The gods exist in the same manner, like a giant species of consciousness, striding psychological paths of vast proportions that never really physically appear in the world at all. The gods and the universe really begin every place and everywhere at once, at every point. Our psychological reality rises from an inner, inconceivable divine mind that's invisible to us, since we are it. Earth-ized, individualized. We are the gods in camouflage. On methods. This small chapter is very important, Oversoul 7 said. So do pay attention, Tweety, and anyone else who might be listening. The whole thing about techniques is the idea that you need certain methods to make things work for you, when all you have to do is let things alone. Then they work for you automatically. If you forget that fact, then you'll always be looking for better and better methods, which will never really work. Because nature and your own nature work best when left alone. If you're going to study such issues at all, then look for what you do right. And you'll always find that in those areas you let yourself alone and do what comes naturally, because you are inclined in that direction. When you concentrate on what's wrong, you almost always try too hard. Look for methods that will work better than ones you're using now. When the truth is that the methods themselves stand in the way, whatever they are, because nature doesn't use methods. It works because it is what it is. Methods presuppose the opposite in whatever area of your concern. They show your belief that nature doesn't work on its own. End of the little book by Jane Roberts, read by Martin John. For Q&A and all the other potentials, peace, light, and love. Aloha, which is never goodbye. As of today, December 24th, 2012, I call this song Charmed Life, Christmas 2012. And it's inspired by the little book, of course, and so this is just, I'm just working it out. Your body's charged.